Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the I Play 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rob Adler. This week, Hobart first-year college hockey player Chris Duclair joins the show. In his lone season with the Odessa Jackalopes in the North American Hockey League, he led the team in both goals and points. Then, Chris played with West Kelowna in British Columbia, where he won the Fan Favorite Award as the most popular player. This year, Chris chipped in 15 goals as Hobart won the Division III National Championship. His brother, Anthony Duclair, was an NHL All-Star in 2020 and currently plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. Thank you for being here. Have you come down from the high yet of winning the national title?
I'd settled in a little bit, I'd say.
What was the best part about that run?
Just the camaraderie, I guess, of the guys. With Hobart winning the championship last year, you're coming into this, you're thinking you could do it again, and you know it's pretty hard to go back to back. But I guess for the most part, the camaraderie of the guys and just us buying into a certain system to win was definitely the highlight and the best part, I'd say.
What was it like coming into the defending national champions, knowing that their goal was to repeat?
Well, I thought of it as just me going into it. I didn't have a national championship or won a national championship prior. So for me, I was just thinking, I want to win my first national title. And I guess that was the mindset for all the freshmen coming in as well.
Hobart played in a 4 overtime game along the way in the playoffs. What's it like to play in a 4 overtime game, and just how taxing is it on you?
It was pretty taxing. I mean, it was already like a very close game. I mean, there were like ups and downs, and momentum was happening so fast. Sometimes Curry was gaining momentum, and sometimes we were gaining momentum. So it was definitely a close game. And those type of games, it just comes down to like a lucky bounce, right? It was anybody's game at that point. And 4 overtimes, I was mentally tired. All the guys were, and somehow we just found a way to win. And it was definitely a pretty cool experience to be part of that 4 overtime win.
I can't imagine just how exhausting that was and how tired you must have been at the end of the game.
I never really played 4 overtimes in my life, for actually 2 overtimes in my life. So going into the game, definitely didn't think that it would go into 4 overtimes, that's for sure.
In terms of as the game's progressing, mindset-wise, how do you prepare yourself to keep going, knowing, as you said, you hadn't played past the second overtime?
It's tough to say, but you can't really prepare for something like that. And so I guess it just comes down to who wants it more towards the end of the game. And I felt like as the overtimes progressed, I believed in my team and we believed in each other to get the job done. And that's what we did. And after that overtime when Bauer Morrissey scored, and you could see it in the clip, I just came off the bench and I absolutely body checked this guy. I was so happy. I jumped on him and I hit him pretty hard and he fell to the ice. And obviously not doing it on purpose, but I had to ask him afterwards, are you okay? Like, is your head all right? Because I hit him pretty hard and definitely not something I should have been doing after 4 overtimes. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, it's also the adrenaline and the emotion of the fact that you just won. I don't blame you on that reaction at all.
It was a whirlwind of emotions. I was just so happy to go home, essentially. We started the game at 7 and finished at like 12:30. So I was definitely happy.
That's a long night at the office.
It is. It's really long. It's definitely a crazy, crazy moment for sure.
I'm curious, did the facility run out of food or drink or anything like that for you guys just because the game went so long?
I think that some of the players that weren't playing went out to the grocery store and got us like some fluids between overtimes and stuff. So we definitely did run out, but our teammates came in clutch with the meals and everything and the drinks.
That is so cool. I'm trying to imagine a hockey player at a grocery store during an overtime. What are you doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
That is a great story.
It was a crazy time. So, I mean, they were nice enough to go get us some fluids and everything.
You guys move on and you end up winning the semis and the finals. What's it like if you're watching the clock click down knowing that you're going to be the national champions?
One of the best moments of my life, to be honest. It was definitely a cool experience, especially getting that empty netter and 25 seconds ticking down while we were up 2-0. It felt like years. I couldn't get my helmet off fast enough and my gloves off. I was just so excited.
What was the post-game celebration like?
Guys were obviously going a little bit nuts. We had some alums come in the room, and I guess our room was getting like so packed. Security had to kick some alums out of the room. We were celebrating for like 40 or 45 minutes, and guys still didn't have their shoulder pads or jerseys off, and security wanted to go home, so they had to come barge in and sort of tell us, hey, let's pick it up. We want to go home.
That sounds like a fun post-game celebration party.
It was awesome. Definitely very cool and pretty neat, actually.
When you got back to campus, was there any kind of celebration or any kind of thing that the school did to honor the team?
Yeah, so what we did when we were heading back to campus, we got a police escort, which was pretty cool. And getting into the heart of campus, there was a line of people outside heading into our dining hall. And so the bus dropped us off there, and then there was sort of a lineup of people as we were going in, which was pretty cool.
Got to be pretty neat seeing all of that for yourself and your teammates.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of guys already experienced it before last year, but the freshman class, I think, really enjoyed themselves.
Taking a step back here, how did your interest in hockey come to be?
It had to come from my brother. I really look up to him. And when I was younger, whatever he was doing, I wanted to do. For example, if he was playing soccer, I wanted to play soccer. If he was playing a sport like tennis, I wanted to play tennis. I sort of just like followed him. And then when he decided to take hockey seriously, I took up hockey and I really fell in love with the game and never looked back.
You mentioned that you played a couple of other sports. How did those skills kind of translate to hockey, if at all?
Maybe the footwork. Hockey, you got to be sort of light on your skates in order to be faster and more agile. And well, I played football, so a sport like football where you need to have change of direction, you need to be fast and quick in tight spaces. I guess that helped me on the ice, being on my toes and stuff like that. So for the most part, the agility aspect helped me on the ice.
Growing up in Montreal, what's it like to, I guess, learn hockey there? Because the province of Quebec and the Montreal Canadiens have a huge hockey history.
It's obviously a big hockey city, and it's like hockey everywhere you go, basically. I think the development is really good. And playing in places like Odessa, where hockey's not that big and it's not the main sport of the city or state, you definitely see a difference going back home playing hockey where everybody knows the game, everybody knows who the Habs are, and conversing with people in Texas where people are not big fans of hockey. So you can definitely tell the difference.
Speaking of Odessa, how did you end up going there?
I actually played in like the USBHL Premier League for like 18 games during COVID when everything was shut down, and I was looking for a spot to play, and I played there in Hampton Roads. And my head coach at the time, Greg Gatto, was a former head coach of the Odessa Jackalobes. And so I guess he got in contact with them, and I was fortunate enough to sign with the team.
While you were in Odessa, did you go to Mi Piaci for some Italian food?
Yes, I actually ate there before every game. That was my pregame meal. My billet parents would order, and I think it was the chicken parm. That was my go-to meal at Mi Piaci.
You and Ray Ferraro, that was his pregame meal. He's known as Chicken Parm.
Yeah, keep it simple. Have you ever been to Garibaldi's in Odessa?
Never went to Garibaldi's.
Really? Okay, so I would eat there pretty often just because Garibaldi's is right across from the rink. So I would probably maybe get a breakfast burrito from there. They're actually pretty good.
I've only been to Odessa twice, so I haven't
Oh,
had
okay.
a ton of meals there. But Mi Piaci was the one that stuck out for me because just the portion size was like the size of a small child.
What's your favorite meal in Mi Piaci?
It was this pasta and sausage dish. I forget the name of it. It came out and I was eating for like, I swear to you, 15 minutes and I couldn't see the bottom of the bowl.
Really?
It was like I was eating and it kept growing.
That good, eh? Wow.
It was absolutely fantastic. And the thing that totally stunk was I was leaving town the next day, so I didn't really have a way to take the leftovers because I was going on a long drive. I would have had enough for at least 2 more meals.
They definitely give you like more food than you're expecting. I would go through that entire meal like 2 hours before a game, and it would fill me up.
Can't believe you could eat the whole thing 2 hours
Yeah,
before a game. Oh my goodness.
I'm pretty hungry. I eat a lot, but it's just so good.
Going from Montreal, Hampton Roads to Odessa, what's that whole transition like? Because you're going out on your own as a teenager. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that, the billet system, all that stuff?
A billet is supposed to take you in and sort of treat you like their own kid and stuff like that. And for the most part, whether I'm Hampton Roads, Odessa, or West Kelowna, I was very fortunate with the type of billets I got. All three billets were very nice, and whatever I needed, they were there for me, and whatever I wanted, they would give it to me. So I was definitely fortunate in that aspect. They were definitely great people.
You mentioned this just a couple of moments ago, COVID. Just how much did that impact you and kind of your development of where you were going to go play?
Yeah, it was definitely pretty strange just because that year I signed with Pembroke Lumber Kings in the CCHL. And so I was there for like 4 months. And when they finally realized that they weren't going to have a season, I went back home devastated because during the summer prior, I'd put so much work in. And my dad got in contact with a guy he knew that knew Greg Gatto from the USPHL. And I guess he linked us up and he talked to me about possibly joining Hampton Roads. And the opportunity came up and I went there for about 15 games and wasn't a bad experience at all.
Pembroke Lumber Kings, former coach there, current Leafs coach Sheldon Keefe.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just fascinated with all the different places you've played, and I can't imagine what your frequent flyer miles must look like.
Oh man, I don't even know, but the hockey takes you strange places, but it's a pretty cool experience looking back at it. It's taken me to places I never thought I'd go, so obviously pretty cool.
What was the adjustment like from Odessa to West Kelowna? Because BC, they love their hockey too.
West Kelowna and Odessa were definitely like opposites in terms of living scenarios and stuff like that. Odessa is just flat. There's no mountains. It's like the desert. While West Kelowna, there's so many mountains, there's water, there's rivers and stuff like that. So definitely different change of scenery, I'd say.
Just from someone who's been to Odessa, it's a landmark when you see a curve.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, there's like nothing there. There's straight desert.
When you were in Odessa, you led the team in goals and points. In terms of your role, was that kind of a different role for you to play?
In terms of role, I guess I just played the same way I've always played, and I was fortunate enough to have a good season. Coach gave me an opportunity to be on the power play and be on the penalty kill as well, and I just made the most of it. And I wasn't really expecting much going into the season. I just came in with the mindset that I'm going to play my game and see where it takes me.
How did you end up going from Odessa to West Kelowna? Because as we've kind of talked about, not exactly the same nor across the street.
After that year in Odessa, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back just because the development was good and I have no complaints about the place, but I just felt like I wanted to step it up a notch a little bit and maybe have a change of scenery. And so I was talking to a lot of BCHL teams, but West Kelowna seemed like the best fit for me.
In West Kelowna, you were voted the fan favorite player. What's it like to have that honor?
I'd say it's pretty cool. I mean, people like watching you play, I guess essentially that's what that means. So it was definitely cool.
You also won, I believe, what is called a chaplaincy award. Could you kind of tell people what that is a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So one time a week, we would have a daily chapel, and somebody would come in and sort of talk to us about Christianity and talk to us about what's it like to be a Christian and sort of values that come with it. And the chaplain's name was Don Richmond. He's a great guy, great human being. He travels with the team and stuff like that, and he was our chaplain. He would gather us all, the entire team, once a week to like talk about God and how God fit in his life and how he found God and stuff like that. He's a pretty religious person. And so me and him sort of related to that because I am a Christian as well and a person of faith. So me and him would chat and talk about life and everything. And I guess he thought that I deserved the chaplaincy award. And I guess he thought that that award fit me well. So they give it out every year for West Kelowna. So it's every year it's a different person, but that year I was fortunate enough to win it.
How did faith become such an important part of your life?
Well, my mom has always been a religious person, so that definitely comes into play. But I guess what really pushed that trajectory was my year in Odessa because my billet parents would go to church every Sunday, and they were definitely a family that were geared toward Christianity. So that definitely helped the progression for sure in terms of religion.
You mentioned your mom, and I don't know if a lot of people totally know this, that your mom and your dad are both Haitian immigrants. With what's going on in Haiti right now, has that impacted any of your extended family?
Not really as of right now, just because so much of my family is either in the United States or in Canada. But growing up, it definitely wasn't easy for them. And I didn't think they stayed in Haiti that long because my grandparents wanted a better life for my mom and my dad. And so they left Haiti pretty young.
Have you ever been to visit?
I haven't. Still looking to, though.
Your background's a little bit different in terms of the traditional hockey player.
Yeah,
How important is it that other people kind of understand and want to learn and embrace it?
it's pretty important. I don't think it matters where you come from or what your background is. If somebody wants to play hockey, the game that they love, then I feel like everybody should get an opportunity to. And so I don't feel like it should be any different or a player should be treated differently just because of where they come from and their background. So just keeping everybody included and not excluding anybody.
I know this is a bit of a delicate question, but I know it happens. Have you ever been a part of a situation involving something that was racially motivated, set against you or towards you?
For the most part, I think I've been pretty lucky. I think my brother has, and I think Bantam or Midget, people said some comments about his color and why should he be playing hockey at a high level given his background, but I haven't been an accessory to that at all. I think it's mostly my brother that's done the worst of it.
Well, it's actually good that you haven't had to face that because so many minority hockey players have.
My brother, I don't think played all that much with anybody that was also African American, so he was isolated in a sense. And a huge part of that was because he was always a great player growing up. So when you attract attention to yourself and you're a minority, you're gonna get some backlash.
Speaking of your brother, how close are you guys? Do you guys get a chance to see each other or text or call just with your such busy schedules?
He checks in with me at least 3 times a week, texts me, calls just to see how I'm doing and see how I'm adjusting and everything like that. Given his busy schedule, I have to say he's been extremely good in terms of communication. I know it's not easy for him, and days off, he wants to relax and lay back. But whenever he has time, he checks in with me, and he's been great with that.
Either this season or a prior season had a chance to go watch your brother play just when you've had some time off?
I went to go see him in Toronto play against the Leafs. My camp is 3.5 hour drive, so it's not that bad. And they won, thank God. I know the Leafs are having a good season, but Tampa was fortunate enough to pull off the win.
As a Leafs fan, I wasn't exactly thrilled with the Leafs effort that night.
They're in a wild card spot right now, the Lightning, so they just need to keep it up and keep winning games.
Outside of your brother, who were some of your athletic idols growing up?
That's actually a great question. Probably Sidney Crosby's definitely got to be up there. Every young kid aspires to be like him. The way he approaches the game and the way he approaches everything in life, actually, is definitely inspiring. Another big athletic favorite in my household is Usain Bolt. My dad is definitely big on him just because of his speed. And then my dad would always tell my brother and I, hey, you got to be like Usain Bolt on skates. My brother and I tried to work our way towards that. Definitely an unrealistic goal because there's only one Usain Bolt, but my dad would tell us that anyway.
I didn't have Usain Bolt on my bingo card for this podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
When your dad's talking about being like Usain Bolt, would he kind of break down video and show you and your brother what you guys needed to do on skates?
He's not a very technical guy. He's more of a motivator. So whenever Usain Bolt was racing or breaking records, my dad would always turn the TV on or let my brother and I know, hey, history's about to happen and stuff. What we would do is we watched every single Bolt documentary, I think We watched 3, but my dad's not a very technical guy. He's just a motivator.
With your dad being a motivator, was there a phrase or something that he would say that would make you understand you need to get better?
I think the most common thing was move my feet. He would always tell me to do that, whether it be before practice or before a game, just tell me to move my feet. My speed's like my number one asset. So whenever I'm not moving my feet, he'd get frustrated and he'd say, you're not playing to the best of your ability. So a big phrase for him, definitely growing up, to tell me was move my feet.
We've talked a little bit about your dad, but how important was your mom in terms of not just being there, but taking you to games and stuff like that?
To be honest, my mom doesn't really like to drive long distances. So I guess for like tournaments and stuff, it wouldn't be her to take me to games, it'd be my dad. But for plate practices, she would always drive me. For games nearby, she would drive me as well. Her and my dad have different ideology. She's more like, all you got to do is go out there and try your best and do your best. That's all that matters. But my dad's more of a tough guy, and he's like, you got to execute tonight and make stuff happen. So definitely 2 different voices.
It sounds like your dad, along with your brother, and I'm going to guess you, are all pretty competitive. How competitive is the Duclair family?
Very competitive. And I have a younger sister. She's 12 now, who plays competitive tennis, and she's extremely competitive, whether it be like tennis or other sports, whatever. And my brother and I, growing up, we would play ball hockey or do like one-on-ones in the corner and stuff like that on the ice. And neither of us like to lose. If we were going to lose, we were either going to fight each other or do something else, but we're definitely competitive.
I would imagine with your brother having a few years on you that if you're going to fight each other, that didn't always work out well.
It didn't work out well for me at all, but I would always try.
Out of the entire family, who would you say is the best pure athlete?
My sister's on track to becoming a very good athlete, but I'm just going to go with the obvious answer right now and say my brother, just because he's obviously made a name for himself. So I'm going to go with him.
I'm impressed that you would say that because everyone else I've asked that, they've all said themselves.
For me, I just call it like it is. And I think in some aspects, I'm better than my brother in certain things, but for the most part, I think he's got us beat.
What was the recruiting process like? Because I read that before you ended up going to Hobart, that you at least were heavily recruited by Rochester Institute of Technology.
For Rochester, I was committed for 2 years, committed early in the year when I was playing for Odessa. Then I went to West Kelowna, and I thought that I was going to go into Rochester Institute of Technology, but there were some NCAA clearinghouse issues because I did homeschooling for like 2 years in Quebec, and it just didn't work out. So the next best thing was definitely Hobart, given that they won a championship and stuff like that. I felt like it was a great fit to play D3 hockey.
At Hobart, I know you're a freshman, but have you decided what you might be majoring in yet?
Most likely economics. Most of the guys on the team are majoring in economics as well. And so I might go towards there. I'm not like a biochemistry major by any means. So I think economics is the next best thing.
And economics is good too, especially if you aspire to play pro anywhere. So you don't necessarily need an agent and can negotiate your own contracts.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that could definitely help. Certainly couldn't hurt.
Has the team already started talking about maybe we can make this a three-peat?
I think that was our first thought after we won, to be honest. I feel like everybody knows who Hobart is now, winning back-to-back. A team hasn't done that in 10 years. So the program has definitely made a name for themselves. And just talked to some guys and coach yesterday. There's some people looking to come to Hobart, like high-profile players now, given Hobart's track record. So it's definitely exciting. And I feel like the program's going to be in a good position next year to do a three-peat for sure.
I was emailing with your coach, and one of the things he said to me about you was not only is he a good player, he's a great young man and an even better and super teammate. What's that like to hear?
He smile almost. He's a great coach. He doesn't recruit players that he thinks are bad people or thinks that will be like a cancer to the team. He makes sure that players are good people before they join the program. And so he's definitely big on character, and those kind words coming from him, a guy who's an NCAA legend because he's one of the best coaches to ever coach at the D3 level. Definitely means a lot for sure.
What about Coach Taylor's style has helped your game get better?
I guess the little details of the game, especially playing NCAA hockey, executing is a big thing. And I felt like at the beginning, I wasn't executing that well in my defensive zone. And so he talked to me about using my assets more often and showcasing my skill and what I'm good at. And that's my speed. And he definitely helped me in that aspect to sort of showcase what I can do best.
Being that you're not the tallest player, and I can relate because I'm a pretty short guy too. I'm shorter than you are. What's it like to know that you have to use other assets to make up for that lack of height?
For the most part, I knew that speed has always been my asset. So I was obviously shorter than most guys for most of my playing career. But in the case that I wasn't going to be 6'2", my dad and my family was big on increasing my speed and my leg strength so that I can compete and win battles against guys that are 6'2", 6'3". And anyway, in today's game, I feel like skating definitely the most important asset that a player can bring to a team for sure. So it worked out.
When you see a player like Logan Stankoven with the Stars, because he's 5'7", 5'8" as well, does that encourage you to say, well, if he can do that, so can I?
Logan Stankoven is definitely a great player and he's like a wrecking ball out there. Fast, gritty. He can skate and has a crazy shot, but that hasn't really encouraged me, to be honest. I think that somebody that really encouraged me growing up was Marty St. Louis. Not very tall, but his leg strength is ridiculous. And he competes hard in the corners and he's a gritty player as well. So that's a person that I try to model my game after.
That's a pretty good person to model your game after, especially because now he's the coach of the hometown team.
To have your first coaching position to be an NHL team, it has to be definitely a cool experience. That's pretty awesome, actually.
With the Hobart team, I noticed that there's kind of an interesting dynamic in the fact that you had guys from Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine all on the team this year. How was everybody able to come together and mesh given the larger political landscape?
For us, it doesn't really matter where you come from or anything like that. We just buy into the culture and what Hobart represents and make sure that we're a close team, making sure that we're there for each other. And that's all we go by when we're playing and stuff like that. So it just matters if a player is willing to buy into the culture and if they're a nice person and a good teammate. So it doesn't really bother us or affect us in any way. We're just happy that they're here and happy they're part of the team and happy that we won a championship with them.
The old cliche is true, how sports can unite us all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And it wasn't hard at all getting along with those guys. They're great teammates, great people, and they're great hockey players too. So what's not to like about them? And I found it interesting that they told me they're from Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, but didn't really bother me. They're great people.
In terms of language, was it hard for them to communicate with the rest of the team, or is their grasp on English pretty good?
Their grasp on English was actually very good. I think better than me, to be honest. Especially Iggy Beloff. He speaks English very fluently, so there wasn't a language barrier at all.
Also on the team, there's another brother of an NHL player, Tanner Hartman, who's the younger brother of Ryan Hartman. Do you guys ever commiserate kind of that your brothers are playing and now it's pretty cool that you guys are teammates?
I met Tanner prior to coming to Hobart. When I went to go visit my buddy in Chicago, I did like a couple skates with Tanner, so I knew who he was. And so when I came to Hobart, we didn't really discuss our brothers too much. We just caught up with life and hockey and all that. So we didn't really converse too much about our brothers going in because we knew each other.
I didn't know that you guys knew each other beforehand. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny where hockey takes you for sure.
By the way, Chicago is one of my favorite places ever.
I like it too. It's a nice city.
Where's your favorite pizza place in Chicago?
I never ate pizza in Chicago. I went to go visit my buddy for like 2 weeks, and I think his mother cooked every single meal every day. So I didn't get the chance to visit any pizza places. I probably should have, right, though?
It's like going to New York and not having pizza.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. I didn't go to one pizza place when I went to Chicago.
Speaking of food, are you team St. Viator Bagel or team Bagel Factory in Montreal?
Bagel Factory.
What's your favorite bagel there?
Probably the cinnamon raisin. Keep it simple.
That's not a bagel. Sesame, that's a bagel.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm a pretty plain guy. I've had cinnamon raisin growing up all the time, so I just stick with that.
Did you ever go to Lester's or Schwartz's or any of those delis?
No, I haven't.
You got to rectify that.
I have to, yeah. I don't really go out all that much. I probably should, but I don't eat out all too often. My mom's a great cook, so I mean, to me, the best meals are at home.
What's a favorite meal that mom makes that you can't wait to have when you go home?
Either her shepherd's pie, and she makes a Haitian meal. It's called suspoinois. That's very good. Probably her meatloaf and her lasagna.
Can I come over?
Oh, absolutely. She loves cooking for guests, so definitely have an invitation.
You mentioned the Haitian meal. Could you talk a little bit more about what that is for people who don't know it?
Rice with black beans, essentially. It's all it is. And it's pretty plain, but I guess Haitian meals give me like a sense of comfort, and we've been having it for years. And I think it's one of my brother's favorite Haitian meals as well.
Is there anything right now that you're binge watching on Netflix, Amazon, anything like that?
On Netflix, I just started Peaky Blinders. Literally just started it because my roommate Bauer Morrissey, that's his favorite TV show he set up all time. So after he told me that, I told him that I would start getting into it when the season was over. And I'm like halfway into the first episode right now. It seems pretty good.
I can't say I've seen that.
Peaky Blinders, I guess, is like a huge show, and everybody that watches it loves it. And I'm going to take my roommate's word for it and assume that it's good. So I'm going to get into Peaky Blinders.
What's a favorite movie or franchise that you enjoy?
Anything Star Wars, I like to watch. Star Wars has been like a big thing for me growing up. I really like it. A big comedy movie that I like growing up is Step Brothers.
What about Step Brothers makes it just that much funnier than, let's say, a lot of other comedy movies you've seen?
Just the fact that they're 40-year-old men still acting like kids and living at home is hilarious.
I'm a big comedy movie fan as well. Did you ever see Wedding Crashers?
Yeah, I've seen Wedding Crashers. That's a good one too.
With the popularity of Star Wars, did you have the action figures and all that stuff growing up?
Not the action figures, no. I was big on Pokemon cards growing up, but for someone that watches Star Wars, you'd think I'd have action figures, but no. But I had Pokemon cards in my room.
For me, I know next to nothing about Pokemon. What kind of sparked your interest in it?
Mostly because everybody was into Pokemon when I was growing up, and we would trade cards or trade action figures and stuff. So I guess the popularity of Pokemon made me want to get into it.
Oh, that kind of sounds like when I was a kid and we used to trade baseball cards and football cards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Looking down the road, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
What a question. In 10 years, I hope to maybe still be playing hockey, maybe make a good career out of it, and hopefully make some decent money or good money doing it. But yeah, 10 years, I can't really look that far down the road. Well, that's a long ways away.
Chris, I want to thank you so much for joining the I Play Too podcast today and coming on and talking about your life in hockey and playing in places like Hampton Roads, Odessa, winning a national championship. Congratulations, man, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me again.